Did you hear those words, those lyrics? I didn't know my own strength, and we are not built to break. You know, it seems hard to remember now, but exactly 4 short years ago, we had a moment. In the darkness of COVID, things were finally starting to look better. Do you remember? Early 2020 had been so hard. We lost our friends, we lost our loved ones, many of us lost jobs, but now the cases of COVID seemed to be slowing down. Summer was coming. We looked forward to businesses opening again, not wearing those masks, right? Being outdoors, relaxing our social distancing. Maybe, just maybe, we'd made it through. And then George Floyd was murdered. Then the pandemic surged again and again. Layoffs came, then massive rehiring, then the Great Resignation, then quiet quitting, then the explosion of AI into workplaces. When we didn't know what we were facing, we didn't know our own strength. I didn't, and I'm pretty confident you didn't. We just didn't know what we could handle because we'd never been tested like this before. It's not lost on me. While you were all bringing our workplaces through the chaos of those 4 years, you were dealing with your own challenges in your own life. Trying, for example, to engage your children through a horrific pandemic school experience. Losing friends and family to COVID or suffering from long COVID yourselves. Families were ruptured by ideological differences, driven there by self-serving media and the recession. It hurt so many people we love, especially young people who seem to have lost hope. Oh yeah, it's been a tough 4 years. But you know what? We made it through the storm. We did it, we survived. We did it with the strength we didn't know we had, and guess what? We are stronger now. HR's influence has grown significantly on every stage. We've proved to people that we can work in a variety of ways and places. We are starting to get our arms wrapped around our new sources of talent and new ways to skill up. It feels like the worst is behind us. But the thing about storms, you like that? They have a way of coming back. And my friends, a storm is coming for HR. I want you to hear me clearly. A storm is coming for HR. And this storm, this time, it's not time limited like the pandemic or an economic slump that you'll go down and out of. It's going to disrupt our workplaces, the lives of our people, and the health of our businesses continuously for decades to come. And it's not one of those 1 or 2 change storms. It's the worst kind of storm, one that comes together with many forces. They'll come together at one time. The scientists call it a polycrisis. I'd never heard that term. But a polycrisis is like Gaza, Taiwan, Ukraine, everything at once. That's coming to the workplace. It's marked by disagreement, confusion, and suffering, caused by multiple concurrent problems that together will have a massive and negative effect on all of us. And HR, for good or for bad, we're going to be right in the middle of this polycrisis, forced to upskill 1 billion global workers at a time when the state of learning and education here at home and abroad has never been more fragile. We aren't ready for the full impact of AI on jobs and work. And I'm very sorry to say, but very, very tough times are coming for many people we know, especially the most vulnerable among us, including our children. And incivility and discord at our workplaces are growing every day, every year. We have a decisive election day approaching. It's gonna get ugly. People are mistrustful of each other and the systems we live in and that we work in. We hold outright contempt for our neighbors. It's not that I don't like her, I'd prefer not see her. I have contempt for her. And if all of this were not enough, and very close to our hearts, DE&I is under a microscope of scrutiny. Can you feel it? So what's the plan? What are we as HR professionals, as human beings, what are we going to do? That's the question, because we have to do something. We can't stop the storm. We can't stand still and be pummeled by it, right? We can't run away from it because it's going to overtake us quite easily. And the reality is there's no place to hide. So what do we do? First piece of advice, don't panic. That's the number one thing you have to do. We are the equivalent of pilots who are flying into serious turbulence. And the absolute worst thing that we can do right now is to signal to the organization that there's a problem. Think about it, all of you who flew in, the last thing you want is to hear the pilot say, uh-oh. That doesn't work. Former President George Bush, right here on this stage 2 years ago, said something. He gave the most amazing piece of leadership advice that I've ever received. He said, in these very times, leaders must, 2 words, project calm. And that's what we need to do, is project calm. But next, and because we're strong and supported by this profession and SHRM, we must gather up our courage, our wisdom, and our community and run right into the storm. And I know many of you are asking, Johnny, what are you talking about? How dumb is that? We learned real early on, run away from trouble. Even creatures in the animal kingdom, what we know is that they know what to do when a storm is coming. They get out, right? Rabbits and rodents, they head for the burrows. Sheep and cattle will head for the barn, huddle together in the middle of the field and just wait for the worst. Even seabirds, I'm a Miami hurricane, right, will seek shelter, you like that, in the face of a tropical storm. Overwhelmingly, animals run away from storms. But as I was doing some research in preparation for this talk, I learned something. There's one particular animal that bucks the trend. It's the buffalo. The buffalo are amazing in that they charge straight into a storm because they know it's the fastest, most efficient way through turmoil. Their goal is not to seek safety, but to make it to the other side quickly and stronger with the least amount of damage. The buffalo figures we can't deny the danger or the storm, but guess what? We're not going to quiver in fear or retreat. This isn't how it has to work. It is what it is. Well, just like the buffalo, my friends, HR practitioners, we can't be afraid of a little rain. SHRM is closing its first 75 years of our existence this year. But it's the next 25 that we're focused on, maniacally focused on. In fact, it's the next 5 that will make or break our organizations, the businesses in which you work, and believe it or not, our profession. I've said this for years, and now I'm seeing it. CEOs, I spend a lot of my time professionally with CEOs and visiting you all in the field. But I gotta tell you, it took a while. Do you remember the old conversation, we wanted a seat at the table? Well, they're past that. CEOs get it. They see the value of HR. In fact, I'm thinking back to April of 2020, I had a CEO of a major company call me up and he's questioning whether or not they should do masks at work. When should they come back to work? You all remember that, right? And I'm sitting on a conversation talking with him and he said, Johnny, I gotta tell you, HR is really important. I was like, ooh, took you that long. Question whether or not you should be a CEO, but whatever. He told me something, he was very honest. He said, I have talked with my HR department more in the last 8 weeks than I have in the last 8 years. And it was so sobering to me. He didn't realize I'm thinking, idiot, but whatever. That's on you. But the question is, do they trust the HR profession to lead them into this coming storm? Have we proved, have you proved, because only you know the answer, and are you equipped and courageous enough to guide through these polycrises? So today, I'm only going to focus on 3 issues that I think are whipping up this dangerous polycrisis storm in our workplaces. And I'm going to share with you what I think HR must do to get to the other side. First of all, millions of people are in danger of losing their ability to earn a living, to experience the dignity of work, not because they don't want to work, but because they won't have the skills they need in the 21st century to work. We must build human potential by upskilling every worker at the pace of innovation or faster. And so it's really fast. Secondly, AI, boy, those two letters, has the potential to accelerate productivity or disrupt workplaces and dehumanize work. Which way that goes depends on the 26,000 of you. We must build AI-optimized workplaces. Get this, AI-optimized workplaces that always put humans at the center. And thirdly, in a time of deepening societal division, HR must raise the bar for human-to-human civility. I don't have to tell you, but it's pretty bad out there right now. So these are the three things that I want to talk with you about today. So let's dive into the first one. Get this, this number was staggering. In the next 10 years, more than 1 billion jobs, that is 1/3 of all jobs that we know today, will be totally transformed by technology. The skills gap is already leaving millions behind right here in the United States and abroad, which is stressing our competitiveness, our economy, our communities, and our families. People are afraid. Because of technology, globalization, and demographic shifts, we are asking more of our employees than we've ever asked before. We're asking them, in short, to be superhumans. We need agile, curious learners who can adapt and uber empathetic managers who can lead confidently through uncertainty. However, the reality is we're stuck with who we have. Human beings, basic human beings, humans just like us. And on one hand, we're lucky to have them because each one of them brings something very valuable into the workplace, and it's their potential. Regrettably, many of these humans in our workplaces now and the ones coming up are dealing with an education system that hasn't changed much in generations. And despite billions and billions of dollars in new investments in our states, we may actually be worse off than we were a decade ago. The state of K-12 education has been bad for a long time, but the pandemic was a wrecking ball into U.S. public education. U.S. math and reading skills have dropped to the lowest levels in decades. Children, especially those from the most vulnerable neighborhoods and zip codes, fell further behind. They were already behind, many deciding to drop out altogether. This chronic and growing absenteeism rate in America's schools is also a hidden educational crisis. If you don't come to school, you can't learn in school. And it's not just the children. 21%, 1 in 5 U.S. adult population read below a 5th grade level. STEM skills are at a lagging, we're sort of lagging right now at a time when every student needs them. Not just those who are pursuing tech or science careers, but everyone needs them. We heard the story last year, I think it was, that not one single student in 13 Baltimore high schools passed a state standardized test in math. 13 schools, not one student. And for those of you who are smugly sitting out there thinking, well, I don't live in Baltimore, so that's not really my problem, right? The funny thing is human beings have this way of moving. And one day, the person you said that wasn't your problem is going to be in your labor pool. They can't read, can't do math, won't follow directions, etc. So they moved to your city, and now it's your problem. Oh yeah, we are marching right into a storm like none that we've ever seen. So yeah, it's natural to believe. I know I see my parents out there and you all saying, yeah, you know, things are going to stay the same. As much as things change, they stay the same. And you know, when I grew up, we had a pathway to this, right? Right after high school, 12 years of elementary through higher education, a bumper crop of workers, 60% of them would come ready to go into the workforce. They'll go to the military. They'll serve our retail establishments. They'll do that work. And then there's another 30 or 40% of them, you know, they're going to go off to college. We have to wait a little while, 4 years. News alert, it's 6 now, but 4 years. And then we're going to be able to count on them to come in and lead these organizations. That's not our new reality. And it's just not our new reality. And I wish it was simple enough. You know, they don't have the skills. It's not. At a basic level, as my grandmother would say, they don't have the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. I don't have any of it. And this has created a real storm for those of us who have to find talent for our organizations that will judge HR based upon talent, If we can fill the positions, we're great. When we can't, we're the enemy. But these kids have another problem. It's preparation for adulthood and life skills, like critical thinking, problem solving, and adaptability. And even the students who do well academically, and we've seen them, haven't always mastered some basic life skills, like showing up to work on time. I know, it's tragic. It's like everyone can do that, right? Not so much. Getting along with their coworkers. You got to get along with people in a team and oriented environment. Disagreeing without being disagreeable. They seem to have lost that art. And accepting constructive feedback, good luck with that, right? I'm triggered. Well, really, let me trigger you by firing you. Doesn't work that way. But I got one for you. I tickled myself. I'm supposed to get back on track now. I have 22 minutes left. I read an article the other day, get ready, that 1 in 5 Generation Zers brought their parents to their job interviews. Can you imagine that? I'm gonna tell you, I immediately wanted to get mad at the kids, but I hated the parents. Like, who does that? That's insane. Listen, there's still an overemphasis on traditional college pathways, not enough on community colleges, vocational training, apprenticeships, and other roads that align with our economy and with what business needs these days. What education can't do, HR is now going to have to do. And while it's questionable whether we're the right people to do it, after all, we're not formally trained as educators, we may have no choice but to shoulder the responsibility of training humans, because that's what our organizational leaders want from us. That's what they expect for us. And it happens to be right there in our titles. We are Chief Human Resources Officers. We're Chief People Officers. We're Talent Specialists. This is what we do. The humans, the people and talent that we help, are high school grads with little experience who just need us to put them on a learning pathway at work. They may be middle-aged or older workers. Let me tell you, every day 80 looks young to me, because every day you get older, it's like, I'm gonna have to completely reskill. Crazy factoid that I read the other day. The fastest growing segment of the US workforce are people 75 and older. Yes, that's fact. And it's not off of a low base, admittedly, but the fact, back in the day, you retired, you started winding down around 60, 65, you were out. They're coming back into the workforce. And no disrespect, Walmart, but they don't just want to be Walmart greeters. They want real jobs. They're coming in and saying, show me a path forward. I'm good for at least another 10 years, and in many instances, up to 85. I almost made a comment because we know what's happening right now, right? Then you have the worried team. And this is the part that concerns me most. These are people who are transitioning to a brand new world of working due to AI. They are the ones who've been displaced. So upskilling and reskilling is not just a technical effort. It is a profoundly human one. Instead of just talking about the problem, though, SHRM is running once again into this storm by partnering with ETS, the world's preeminent global education and talent solutions organization, to enable lifelong learners. We used that phrase for a long time, but now we must live it. Lifelong learners to be future ready. And we have today, I think, someone here, a group of ETS executives with us in Chicago. Please welcome to join them to the SHRM family. ETS execs, are you here? Now, in the coming year, SHRM and ETS will partner. We're going to partner to build a universal skills assessment for frontline workers. And this isn't just retail, it's frontline workers everywhere. And we're going to develop a skills-first talent practices credential for HR professionals. We will close the education to employment gap. We have to. And we have to address the skills that workers need. The crisis is here. Employers need it. We need to create standardized, universal, validated approaches to assessing skills of all workers. And we will upskill the HR profession on how to use these skills, because it's not enough for your folks to understand that you're hiring for skills. You have to know how to do it so that we can match that skills data to people and opportunities based upon demonstrated skills. Reality, my friends, is we aren't going to be paralyzed. SHRM is going to create solutions before you need them. We have research teams at the front. Our chapters and our state councils all over the country and indeed the world are working in the field. Our tech, education, and advocacy teams are backing you up, and critical initiatives like the SHRM ETS Skills and Assessment Partnership will deliver for our people the talent they need for their businesses. Nope. We're not going to sit idly by. We're not going to do it and just wait for this storm that's raging toward us. We as HR leaders, we will overcome our own limits, the limits of our imagination and the belief in what we know we're capable of and our people are capable of. I want you to be surprised by your own strength. So I want to tell you about a story. I was in San Diego, April 2 years ago, and I'm sitting at this table with a group. It was a room full of really, really smart tech company, specialists there in work tech and ed tech, and they were talking about AI. And I mean doom and gloom. AI was going to displace jobs. It was going to make human beings unnecessary. It was the end of the world. It was going to take over the world. People had been watching that movie Megan or whatever. I mean, people were obsessed at the moment. And they said, this is bad for people. I was on the panel, said, what do you think about it, Johnny? You're from SHRM. And I said, we need a new math. I hear you all, but we need a new math. And I don't know where it came from because I wasn't particularly good at math in school, but I said, we need a new equation. And the equation says AI plus HI will equal the new ROI. I said, that's the way I want you to think about it. It's additive. We can't think about AI replacing HI because there are things that uniquely only human beings can do, but together, it's amazing. As I said before, it's wrong to think of AI as a replacement for humans when it's actually an enhancement. AI gives us a golden opportunity to take the most exciting, labor-saving, mind-expanding technology in generations and waste it or use it or misuse it. Despite how thoroughly AI is permeating our workplaces, only 12% of HR professionals and just 15% of workers believe their organization is using it effectively. I mean, we all know this. We're jumping on top of this stuff, but we're not using it effectively. And this unbelievably low utilization rate is a clarion call for HR leaders to stop edging around AI and start to engineer ways that revolutionize our workplaces. We've been way too defensive. I read the articles online from you all. It can't do HR like we can. Some parts of it, maybe. We're simply not here to keep the worst of AI away. You want to legislate it away from our people. We're here to bring out the best of it. That will make them better. Because AI is nothing without HI, human intelligence. But guess what? The HI also means HR intelligence. And that means each of you in this room who've been fighting this, you've got to understand this stuff. If you've not gone to be very intentional about skilling up on the use of AI, not just in HR, but in your organizations, you're failing. We've got to do this pronto. HR needs to be the part of every HI conversation in your workplace, especially if it impacts people, or it's going to overtake us in the open field and our businesses are going to get soaked. This is a real storm. Now, just to let you know what we're up against, let me share what the futurologists are saying about what AI will look like in just a few years. Future fact, we will interact with a wide range of AIs in our daily lives as naturally as we interact with other people. Believe it or not, and I know some of you are sitting and say there's no way. They will be our personal assistants, our tutors, our career counselors, our lawyers, our doctors, our therapists, yeah, and even our significant others. Yeah, it's real. That's what they say is cheaper, I promise you. I could go there, I won't. That's what the forecasters are confidently predicting. They will be everywhere in our work lives, summarizing our meetings, writing code, building products, selling services, yes, supporting customers and making strategic decisions. Make no mistake, this isn't a maybe. This transition is inevitable because AI will be able to do many human tasks very well. They're going to do them cheaper, faster, and more reliably. They will show up on time. So we're going to have to run toward learning as a profession. We have to become experts on this thing. We need to partner with IT and other parts of our organization to understand all of it. That's the way we're going to survive this storm. Another future fact, over 100,000 humanoid robots will be deployed in the real world. Yeah, so far most of you simply interacted with ChatGPT or Microsoft Pilot or Gemini or whatever you're doing right now, and you think that's it. Well, the robotic field is poised for a major revolution, one where human-looking and human-acting tools are going to end up working right next to human beings. So when does HR think that this is going to be introduced into the workforce, in the workplace, in numbers? As soon as 5 years. That's what the numbers are telling us. Final future fact. AI-driven job loss, and this is the one that keeps me up most at night, will be one of the most volatile political and societal issues you've ever encountered. If we think what we're seeing in DE&I right now and what's happening in the war in Gaza, you've seen nothing. I think many people will be very surprised when this storm finally breaks, even though we've been talking about it for years. You see, if you're to believe what McKinsey has told us, 30%, mind you, there are 4.5 billion jobs on the planet, 30% of the world's workforce will be made jobless because of AI within 7 years. We've seen it already in layoffs in customer service and tech and even in HR. Wall Street is literally salivating over the cost savings that they can get out of having fewer employees and headaches and lawsuits and regulations. And of course, new jobs are going to be created, indeed, but they won't be in any one-to-one kind of parity. And we should also be honest about the fallout here. Civil unrest, again, like nothing we've ever seen, is likely. Human beings find two things to be an existential threat: anything that threats their lives and anything that threats their livelihoods. This is going to impact their livelihoods. And citizens will demand that the government step in to protect their livelihoods. Ideas like universal basic income are going to gain traction because people must eat. They must be able to provide for themselves and their families. And guess what? People's political leanings and social identities will be shaped even more by their viewpoints on how AI should be managed for society and the economy. It's going to become the new issue. It won't be abortion, it won't be immigration, it's going to be AI in the workforce. So if you think the current political moment, this one that we're in 2024, is tumultuous, buckle up. Because we're going to run headlong into this issue. This is ours. We won't be sitting on the sidelines, I promise you, while policymakers alone make decisions that affect our workers and our workplaces. We did that in the 90s, SHRM, HR profession, that didn't work so well. So we're in the front of this. HR will be fully in the mix, all the way up to the top decision-making rooms in government, no matter who sits there. I want to take just a minute to say something about that. You know, we don't know who's going to win in November, but in January, leadership will be what it is. And I'm going to tell you right now, SHRM is going to be in the room with whomever wins the White House. Okay? It doesn't matter. This is not about what you like, who you care for. Someone told me, said, I would never have lunch with him. I said, and you won't, so don't worry about it. What we have to do. My job is to make sure, because if you're not in the room, let me tell you, on Capitol Hill, the decision's going to be made whether you're there or not. And oftentimes the decisions will be decisions that we don't agree with. You can't complain about it if you're not there. SHRM will be there no matter what. And we've got to commit ourselves to doing this. SHRM is also fully engaged with business leaders and decision makers to promote a human-centered approach to workplace AI, backing it up with our own research and global leadership platform. Someone's asked me recently, Johnny, you all raised dues recently. Well, let me tell you what we're doing. In just the last year alone, we've created a new Chief Data and Insights function, hired a ton of people. We hired a head of knowledge. We even brought on full-time labor economists. This is not your grandma's SHRM. This is the 21st century SHRM. Okay? So now, it's time to look out for the storm within. 4 years have passed since the pandemic began. It took just 4 years for a radically different social contract to take shape. You see, we've gone from COVID to conflict, from looking outward to face a global existential crisis to turning inward to bitterly nursing our grievances. After all, we're at a point, we're in this country, we're as diverse as we've ever been, yet as divided as we've ever been. If it's not red versus blue, it's men versus women. It's urban versus rural. It's black versus white versus brown. immigrant versus native, blue collar versus white collar versus pink collar, millennial versus baby boomer, or Generation Z, and now the alphas. Yeah, 6 generations in the workforce for the first time ever. And all of these people, deep down, they all want the same thing: to make a decent living, to care for themselves and their families, to enjoy personal freedom. We're actually more the same than we're different. But people these days have gotten ugly. And there are a lot of theories around why this is the case, but I don't think there's a single cause. What we've left with, and what we're left with, is trauma, fear, anxiety, uncertainty, misinformation, anger, and isolation, and outright contempt for each other. That's the storm, HR folks, that we're facing. 168 million people in the US workforce. Guess what? That's half of the US population. They come to work every day and they bring this stuff with them. And it erupts in both small and some devastating ways. Civility is under threat at work, and it's been growing for some time. We've tried to ignore the noise, but it hasn't worked. I was actually with Emily Dickens, who's here in the room somewhere. We went to go visit the EEOC vice chair, and we were meeting with the chair a couple of weeks back, and they reminded us the EEOC predicted this. Civility stuff is not feel-good stuff necessarily. Commissioner Feldblum famously said, workplace incivility often acts as a gateway drug to workplace harassment. Did you get that? Workplace incivility is a gateway drug to workplace harassment. So this is not let's all kumbaya and get along. This is real. We here at SHRM can see what's going on now in real time with our new civility index. And if you haven't checked it out, you have to, because it measures incivility in your workplaces by region, by types of position, by gender, by race, everything. It's amazing. And let me tell you something right now. We know that the temperature is rising in the workplace. Our thermometer tells us that it's getting hot out there. Our research predicts that US workers will experience or witness over 24 billion acts of incivility at work this year alone. 24 billion. We know that nearly 2/3 of US workers have experienced or witnessed incivility in their workplace within the last month. And 1/3 believe workplace conflict will only increase over the next 12 months, and definitely over the next 4.5 months. Worse, they're telling us that they don't think HR can or will do anything about it. That's what the qualitative research is telling us. Let that sink in. They don't believe this is a big problem. 2/3 of your people are witnessing or experiencing it, and they don't believe that we'll do anything about it. Workplace incivility is dangerous. It's dangerous for obvious reasons, because people will end up fighting. That leads to violence. But there are some other more dangerous and subtle, but equally dangerous things that can occur. Imagine situations like healthcare. A nurse who's been subjected to poor treatment by her colleagues and by her supervisor. Is that the person you want taking care of you? Public safety, police officers who've been subjected consistently to attack. Is that the person you want responding to you when you need them? Manufacturing jobs, let's go across the whole gamut of our workforce. Manufacturing jobs, heavy equipment operator, crane operator. You want them to have a bad day? It doesn't work like that. An employee subjected to incivility at work day after day is now stressed, angry, and fearful. And this is a time bomb. HR, we're in a special position. We're in a position better than community, church, peer groups, our leaders, because we have our employees for 8 to 10 hours a day, even if they're working virtually. And what happens at work can profoundly influence them. Just think about it. Again, I told you, 168 million people in the US go to work every day, 4.5 billion people across the world. 4.5 billion people who are subject to the positive experiences that we as HR can deliver to them. HR, we can own this. We have to own it. So let's embrace the true impact of our work on society. Okay, so in 2024, we have our work cut out for us, no question. That's why I'm asking everyone who works, every one of you, whether you're in HR in this room or not, if you work, to practice having civil conversations. 1 million of them at least. And I'm not saying on an individual basis, Tim, but 1 million civil conversations, right? As workplace leaders, you will help us have and spread these conversations, because 1 million we know is never enough. We need billions of these conversations happening worldwide. SHRM has created and curated all you need to do, all you need to start your own Civility at Work campaign. Check us out at shrm.org to get started. Okay, so let me finish by preparing you for one more big storm, and I've alluded to it already, but this is serious. And it is the reality that we're in a backlash moment for DE&I. DE&I has gone from well-intentioned to weaponized, and it's making all of us crazy. SHRM and HR must step in. I know it's easy to say that's someone else's problem, but let me be clear. SHRM and the HR profession must step in. Broader society is asking us to help sort this, and workplaces are demanding that we fix this vexing social issue. Because if we don't, others will. And you know, I'm a lawyer by training. The courts will step in and solve for it. So all you who complain about the courts, let me tell you, if you don't regulate yourselves, then it will end up before a judge, and he or she will make the decision for you. So we need to get in the front of this storm, run into it. But I think we have to be honest with ourselves. And if I step on your toes, I apologize. But if you're going to have a conversation like this, you have to be honest. We have two fundamental challenges when it comes to running into this storm. One, many of us, HR professionals, don't really understand or even agree at times what DE&I is. Right? I know you don't like that, but that's the reality. And part of it's because 30 years ago, it was diversity. Then it was diversity and inclusion. Then it was diversity, equity, inclusion. Then it was diversity, equity, inclusion, and access. Then it became belonging. We just kept adding stuff to it because we were trying to solve for the problem. And we didn't get to the root of it. There's not even clarity about diversity. Does that mean just underrepresented groups from a civil rights standpoint? Or does that mean all of the 30 or so different dimensions of diversity, neurodiversity, et cetera? We're not even clear about that, and we don't agree. Equity, I meet very few people who have a common understanding of what equity even means. We were at the EEOC chair, and she said the name of the EEOC is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. It doesn't say anything about equity. But we have now pulled this language. We've allowed others to define for us what this work is. And as a result, it's a problem. Our early models, here's the other problem, were binary. Remember how we grew up? You were white or you were black. You were old or you were young. You were male or you were female. You were American or you were immigrant. You were liberal or you were conservative. You were gay or you were straight. That was a binary world. We built our platforms, our ways of thinking about diversity and inclusion. We thought about it in binary terms, and that just doesn't work anymore. Interest in diversity goes far beyond traditional differences. There are now at least 30, and I'm saying 30 different recognized dimensions of diversity. Things have changed over 30 years, and business, HR in particular, has done a very, very poor job communicating this change, much less responding to it. So, my friends, it's time for a revisit, a reset, and re-envisioning of DE&I. We don't need to eliminate it. For those CEOs who says DEI must die, they are lunatics. Like, that is insane. Of course we have an incredibly diverse workforce, and we need this work. We're only going to become more diverse. But we do need to rethink it in 21st century terms. At SHRM, for example, we now refer to inclusion and diversity. We're going to keep it simple. Yes, we're going to always focus on D, but we're going to lead with inclusion, because we need a world where inclusion is front and center, and that means inclusion for all, not some people. Everyone has a right to feel that they belong in the workplace and that they are included. Now, if we think the game that we played over 30 years, which is to make some people feel badly about what they have done or their ancestors have done or whatever, if you think that's going to solve a problem, it didn't work over 30 years. So by definition, we've got to adapt a new approach. We're going to channel our inner buffalo, right, and help our workforces and our society get to the other side and realize all of the benefits of our wonderful diversity, because our diversity is our strength. And anyone who doesn't understand that doesn't understand business. But let's be clear, putting a strong focus on inclusion and diversity right now is going to take some courage. In fact, I can imagine right now I'm going to be attacked online right now, this second, because there are people who think, let's kill this thing. We want it to go away. My friends, we can't be intimidated. but we have to have the courage of our knowledge and convictions, because I&D can work. I&D must work for all employees, businesses, customers, and the economy in our society, and we have to prove it. We're going to run headlong into this truth with everything that we've got, and I need your help. Hello? Like, maybe you don't agree with me. Listen, we've become more, not less diverse. The future of I&D is in our hands. These changes are on us now, and there's a shadow over our workplaces, and the spotlight's on us. People are wondering, does the HR profession have the right people? Do we have the juice? Can we be trusted to manage the merger of AI and HI, or to fairly decide how fairness gets done in the workplace? Can we keep our employees safe, especially from each other? And we have a lot of work ahead to prove that we can do this. For the last 30 minutes or so, I've been talking about our businesses, our people, and our economy. Now I want to spend just a few of my final minutes focused on you. We in HR rarely engage in self-care. We're so busy taking care of everyone else. We're so busy making sure that everyone is in a good place. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about HR professionals, and I want you to do something with me. First of all, imagine a time, just imagine a time for me, when you were going through your own storm. Maybe recently, or maybe far in the past. You can actually close your eyes if you want, because this is really an important moment. This is about you all 26,000 of you and 340,000 HR professionals around the world. But I really want you to dig into your memories. Remember a time when your life was overwhelming, but your work with people had to come first. Maybe your partner was pulling away from you. The person that you loved so much said, I don't love you anymore. Yet, you still had to show up every day and practice great HR with a smile on your face and a broken heart. Your parent or your grandparent who raised you was dying a slow and painful death, right? One you had to watch every day. You worked all day, 8, 10, 12 hours, and then you had to go from your workplace to a facility to take care of him or her. You watched this. Yet, every day you had to dig deep, come back and smile, and help other employees who were dealing with their grief. Despite working as hard as you can, and we've all been here, you worked for a jerk or a group of jerks, right? And no matter what you do, they don't value you or what the HR profession does. Yet every day to that very organization, you show up at work and you convince your employees that the company is a great place to work and that leadership values them. Knowing all along that's not so, but that's part of your job. How many of you can relate to that? This is, today or in the past, this is the world that many of us live in. Imagine your very worst storm. Well, you made it. You're here. You got through it, or you're almost on your way. You're on the other side, or you're well on your way to it. And that's what we're going to do for our people. Because the storm is coming for them through you. We, HR leaders, are the lifeline they will hold on to. Sometimes we're all they have. We and our organizations will give them a living and a future, empathetically. We have to bring them through this storm. And it would be very human of us all, maxed out workers ourselves, to step back, check the forecast, wait to see what happens. And it would be very human, all of us, to head for shelter, find another job, change professions, go to safety and wait for the all clear. But I'm asking you to be more than human. I'm asking you to join me and choose your destiny. Choose the courage to run into the storm, the lightning, the thunder, and the changes to come. And like the buffalo, you're going to come out of this better, wiser, more alive, and stronger than you ever thought you could have been. Because you were not built to break. Thank you. Thank you for the honor and the privilege to serve you. The 26,000 of you who are chiming in, 340,000 people around the world, God bless you, and thank you for this opportunity to lead this amazing organization.
This concludes today's general session. Doors for tomorrow's general session are at 7:30 a.m. right back here at the main stage. Have a great rest of your day at SHRM 24.